if you're the type of person that is starting to like really think deeper about your life and what it is that you want to, bring to reality, right? Because a lot of these philosophers or people that talk about this field and talk about manifestation and talk about acting as if, Neville Goddard, my favorite one right now is David Bayer, like all these, or Bayer, all these people, they all have something, they all have a common denominator that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, right? And that's where I'm at, because I don't know how to bring my dreams, that what most of them are saying are already active, to this physical world, right? And this last couple years, I was, I was hurt really bad by a person that I cannot understand what lesson I was to learn, because, she ghosted me, but we saw each other consistently for a couple years after the ghost. Never said anything. I reached out to her like 3 times. I know how that sounds, but I needed an answer. I needed something, especially because we saw each other still. So it's not like you ghost someone in a different city and you never see them. Like, we consistently saw each other and never got the answer to this day. And it's been almost 3.5 years. And I was listening to this, one of the videos that talks about like people in your life, and every person in your life is a teacher. They teach you something, whether you like it or not, and especially the ones that hurt you teach you the most. So I started to get me, so like I started thinking about this person. I'm like, what the heck did she teach me? And she did teach me a lot about who I was and how I was closed off and how I just was not open. And when I think about it now, like, she was so afraid to acknowledge, to open up, and to just accept that she had feelings, that it was better and easier for her to just not say anything. And I've done that in my past with another person and another person. So like now I know like that, how it feels to be the person on the other side, if that makes any sense. And she also reminded me or made me actually, this pain was so excruciating that it made me have to like find ways to understand my thinking process, understand who I am. I started to really dive into Stoicism. I started to dive into philosophy with Alan Watts, Neville Goddard. Another one that I liked was, I can't even think about it. There's another one I just can't. Anyway, but all around all the same type of philosophers, and if it wasn't for that pain that I had caused because I couldn't get an answer and I just didn't know what was going on, I know for a fact I wouldn't be able, or I wouldn't have learned how to, I wouldn't have thought about finding out like what it is that I needed to do, or needed to find out about myself. Like I had been living very surface level. I had been very much scared of love and also really wanting love, but I never admitted that I was also very like emotionally unavailable because I really wasn't understanding or wanting to open up that fear that I had when it came to love. Because growing up, I didn't ever feel pretty enough, good enough. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to receive love. Anything that had to do with love, I didn't understand it. So, growing up into an adult, like I hadn't had like a real like connection to love. And when I did have my first relationship, I still wasn't 100% like, I loved her a lot, but there were still parts of me that were still very selfish, and I didn't completely open up to this person. It was just enough to be in a relationship with her, right? And so now when this happened with this person and not having an answer, I had to really dive in to understand and validate myself, and not to seek that validation, and to understand that I am lovable, that a lot of the times what other people do, their actions don't mean that I'm not good enough because they did not want to respond or whatever the situation is. And I learned so much about my persona and how I am by seeing her. That's who I used to be. I was very closed off. And anyway, so if you're at this point where you are just trying to understand who you are and trying to really understand and improve yourself, right? And it's gonna come when someone really does hurt you, and instead of just getting into another relationship and just like not even thinking about it, really dive into a lot of these videos on YouTube and really understand and start to do a lot of writing and get to that nitty gritty of what it is that your fear is. Because I could tell you with full conviction that as much as it hurt, and I would cry every day and just feel so just what's the word? I just felt so like a loss of control. I felt so powerless because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't force her to have a conversation. I just had to sit in the discomfort. And when you could learn how to do that, like, you're unstoppable, but you also like have that confidence and security in yourself. But again, it's something you practice, because I don't wake up and I'm like, oh, I have the security all the time. Like, I still have to listen to these tapes. I still have to do this writing. And the thing is, there's nothing else I would want to do, right? Like, I know that asking these questions, and I know that digging deep into who I am is just, it brings so much more clarity and security and confidence in myself. Because if you don't dig into yourself and really ask these questions that you could tell yourself, oh, I don't know, like, really sit there and ask yourself these questions, because you do know, you just don't want to have the conversation. Trust me, I didn't either. I didn't know that I was controlling. I didn't know that I was afraid of love. I didn't know that I was emotionally unavailable, because that's what I was attracting, and that's what came up. And that's why I started this video, is because the podcast I was listening to, he was saying how, like, you attract, the universe sends you the same person over and over until you learn the lesson, right? And I didn't know what was like the lesson, but then I noticed that the main thing that I had been attracting in the last couple years was people that are emotionally unavailable, that they wanted it, but they were not ready to open up, right? So each of these people that I had attempted to, get to know or pursue, took a step back, and ultimately I thought, I was like, okay, because it's me, I'm not attractive, I'm like all this stuff, but it's just a reflection of who I was in the past with other people, and how I'm able to see that and know that I'm not there anymore. It's like a mirror of who you are, and to see like the growth in who I am now, because I am open and completely like straightforward when it comes to communication. When I start to talk to someone, that now, like, I don't waste my time or fall into this fantasy of what isn't real. If I'm starting to talk to someone, like the last person I started to talk to, I was very open about where I was, and that person wasn't able to meet me, and that's fine. I was very like transparent about where I am, and then this person couldn't even, like, was at a mute, because like I was so honest, and then there's no confusion. And so ultimately, when you could have these conversations, and when you get to know about what it is that you really want and what it is you don't want, right? Like, you know automatically, I don't want this, and then you know that I want this instead, if that makes sense. So just being able to like work on yourself and just keep going. So let's go. Pew pew.